How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? It's Uncle Sam's Devil, and it's finally time to talk about Dying Light 2. After quite a long period of time with little to no information, Techland has come out with their first of several videos answering 8 community questions, and I think it's definitely information that's worth covering. So let's get into it. The first question they answered was, how big is the map for Dying Light 2? Their answer was that it's about twice the size of the 2 base maps in Dying Light. This includes the slums and Old Town. A more exact measure is that it's a little less than 7 square kilometers. This certainly can give us a clue of the overall horizontal scale of the game, but it doesn't take into account its verticality. Next, they were asked about a zombie from a previous video that had branches growing out of its back. According to the devs, these guys are not someone you want to run into, and if you do, it'll likely be an event that really gets the adrenaline pumping. Not only that, but apparently some of the choices you make during the course of the game's story can affect where and when you see this type of zombie. In other words, hope that one of your decisions doesn't cause the city to be completely overrun with these insane volatiles. Question number 3 was whether players will just see zombies at night, or whether they'll also be a factor during the day as well. The answer is that the most important rule for Dying Light 2 is that daytime is for the living, but night is for the dead. This isn't to say that there won't be some infected around during the day, but they'll likely be lesser and weaker than what we're used to from Dying Light. They also touch on the subject of communities rebuilding and using the buildings and rooftops to aid in their efforts, such as creating fields and farms on rooftops and really centering communities around important points of interest in the city. Because of this, areas have been mostly cleared out of the undead. Question 4 was whether guns would be present in the game. This is something that I've been pretty curious about myself. Their answer was really a mix of yes and no. Modern weaponry, such as what you have access to in Dying Light, will not be available since we're so far into the apocalypse now and it just isn't feasible. However, there will certainly be ranged weapons such as bows. There will also be a one-handed, handcrafted shotgun that can be used in coordination with melee weapons to create a very deadly combination. Unfortunately, this shotgun won't last long before it breaks, so make sure you use it very wisely. Question 5 was about the grappling hook. The grappling hook in Dying Light 2 is going to be a little different than in Dying Light. They're focusing more on making it a realistic tool instead of the ridiculous Spider-Man grappling hook that we're used to, so you can expect more of a Tarzan feel. The dev really wanted to emphasize that they know exactly what they're doing on this one, and the players are going to absolutely love the new grappling hook when they finally get their hands on it. Question 6 was whether vehicles would be a major part of the movement in Dying Light 2. The dev response was that while there is a mission they'd previously shown us where a vehicle is used, traversal of the world will be focused on Dying Light's unique modes of movement that are more centric to the game, such as the grappling hook, parkour, and the paraglider, which are so effective that vehicles are simply not necessary. Question 7 was how many choices are there that actually affect the outcome and gameplay in Dying Light 2? According to the dev, there are 3 different levels for making choices in Dying Light 2. The first one of these is a number of main story choices which drastically change how the story flows and the ending that you path toward. The second level is choices and decisions that are made inside and main quests that have consequences that are contained within those quests and sometimes in the world as well. An example he gave is that in one quest you may have the opportunity to save an opera singer, and doing so will cause her to be at one of the main points of interest where she will then sing. So these types of decisions don't necessarily make or break a run through of the game, but their consequences are definitely noticeable. The third level of decision making had to do with the city alignment system. Different choices allow you to have an effect on which factions take control of the city, and in turn, that dictates how it's run and many of the mechanics within the world. While one faction might set up tools for traversal such as zip lines and trampolines in key areas to aid in movement, siding with another faction will cause them to flesh out the world with militarized gear and combat traps that you can use while fighting infected. Depending on what you do, these mechanics really allow a player to shape their own gameplay experience. Question number 8 was regarding the diversity of the world in Dying Light 2. This game takes place in a large city, so it's quite diverse. One section of the city has skyscrapers, and another might resemble Old Town during Dying Light. This is also affected by player decision making, so siding with survivors will cause small civilian communities with farms, bakeries, and other things to sprout up, and siding with peacekeepers will mean that zones of the city will become completely militarized outposts. This will change the overall aesthetic, gameplay, and add a ton of replayability to Dying Light 2. Alright ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be all for this one. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe. It helps me out and I really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one.